Solar Impulse was built to convey a message: clean and efficient solutions exist. The groundbreaking technologies that allowed the plane to fly proved it. It's now time to bring these innovations to the ground and scale them for the benefit of the people and the planet. Replacing old polluting devices with existing efficient solutions can drastically reduce the world's energy consumption and therefore CO2 emissions, while opening up new market opportunities, creating jobs and profit. This has always been the vision of Bertrand Piccard, the man behind Solar Impulse. As an influential thought leader in progress and sustainability, he always advocated that economy and ecology have to go hand in hand. His next great challenge with the Solar Impulse Foundation is to select 1,000 solutions that can reduce our impact on the environment while enabling economic development and bring them to decision makers. To achieve this challenge, the Solar Impulse Foundation created the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions, bringing together innovators, investors, and solution seekers involved in developing, financing, and promoting clean technologies in order to showcase efficient solutions that have the potential to address today's environmental challenges. These solutions will be awarded by independent experts with the Solar Impulse Efficient Solution label if they meet the following criteria: technological feasibility, environmental and socio-economic benefit, profitability. The Solar Impulse Efficient Solution label covers a large variety of fields in the form of 5 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, ranging from products, processes and services, prototypes to fully commercialized solutions. This label aims at raising awareness about available clean solutions in order to facilitate their implementation. Bertrand Piccard will travel the world to present the 1,000 Solutions portfolio with one goal: motivate governments, corporations, and institutions to adopt clean and efficient solutions. Encourage them to go beyond compromise and adopt more ambitious environmental targets and energy policies. Bertrand will also promote the solutions to the media and the public to make them accessible to a broad audience. We need politicians to own the solutions so that they know which ones are best suited for their country, understand that they are profitable, can create jobs, and then incorporate them into their environmental and energy policies. Profitable solutions to protect the environment exist. Join our challenge to build a sustainable future.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a video introduction from Bertrand Piccard, who is a psychiatrist and explorer. He made history by accomplishing 2 aeronautical firsts. He flew around the world nonstop in an air balloon, and more recently, he flew around the world nonstop in a solar-powered plane without fuel. As you just heard in our video, he has a goal to identify 1,000 profitable solutions to protect the environment and support clean growth. I am very pleased to introduce our guest, Bertrand Piccard. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hello.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This video allows me to make the link between my speech in 2017, 4 years ago, to the same Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue and today. Because 4 years ago, I made a promise. I made the promise to bring 1,000 solutions that would be technologies, systems, products, devices, materials that would be financially profitable to protect the environment. But a promise without follow-up has no sense, no value. So today it's the follow-up. What happens in these 4 years? Well, in the beginning, a lot of people told me it's impossible to bring 1,000 solutions. Then they started to calculate and said the maximum you can find is about 300. Well, what did we do? We put in place a pool of 400 experts We managed to have 16 partners funding the project. We had the members of the World Alliance for Efficient Solutions that we had created starting to bring solutions, submit solutions, and we got, with the certification of EY, a process reaching the labels. Today we have 950 solutions. So in April, we will reach 1,000. It's a symbolic number, but of course we will continue to get more and more of these solutions. Why is it so important? You have heard yesterday Ursula von der Leyen bringing a lot of economical arguments about the energy transition. She has spoken about the need to create more energy independence in Europe. We have seen that fighting climate change becomes an industrial opportunity that is bringing a lot of competitive advantages. But even more, protection of the environment becomes a competitive field because the opportunities lie precisely here. This we know, we hear it. And we have governments who are setting goals of carbon neutrality for 2050. But how are they going to reach it? Sometimes it seems that it's a little bit the big declaration allowing to give the hot potato to the next one, to have him doing the job. Well, what we need today is to understand that the solutions exist. And in every media debate, in every political decision, in every international negotiation, the fact that 1,000 solutions exist is an essential part of building another future. We cannot deny the fact that we have to change, but how do we change? And it's really important, I really emphasize that. Just identifying problems and looking for solutions is not enough. We have to look on the market, in the innovation, everything that exists today, and that allows to change each time a little thing to become more efficient. I like to say that it's the theory of the piranha. If you have one piranha, these little fishes in a river that bites you, it hardly makes any harm. But if 1,000 of them come, in 3 minutes, they have eaten you completely and there is only the skeleton left. Well, with the solutions, with the technologies of today, the clean technologies, all the ways to produce, to store, to save, to distribute, to consume renewable energies, it's exactly the same. We can put all the solutions in place in order to reduce energy consumption, in order to be more efficient, in order to produce alternative sources. But the regulations are not allowing us to do that. The regulations today are still based on old technologies, which means that you have a lot of corporates, a lot of private people, a lot of governments who will say, while polluting a lot, while emitting a lot of CO2, what I do is legal. I'm allowed to do it. So it's clear that today what we need is to raise the bar, raise the challenge, be much more ambitious in the energy policy and the environmental targets. And we can do it because the solutions exist. And if we do it, if we have countries really taking seriously the regulation part, it will pull to the market all these hundreds and hundreds of solutions that sometimes belong to big corporations, but very often belong to small startups who are unknown and who need clients, who need promotion in order to become the successful companies of the future. So we see in which direction we have to go. We see that we have the tools to do it. And as you've heard in the little film, I want to go around the world again, a third journey around the world, to bring these solutions to heads of states and to bring them the tool, a tool where they can ask all the questions and get all the answers given by the latest technology that exists today. Not vague ideas for the future, but technologies that exist today. And for this, we need to take together with us all the big corporations, especially the ones who are polluting the most, because, and this is a new narrative also, they start to diversify. Even oil companies today start to observe in which direction they have to go. And if there is a carbon tax on the border, as we heard yesterday, which is a fantastic solution for Europe, of course, we need to create inside Europe all the skills, all the potentials in order to use what we have to do better. So in terms of regulation, there are not only things to prevent, there are things to allow. You know that today, in a lot of countries of Europe, it is prohibited to discharge your electric car on the grid to give electricity to your house during a peak of consumption. This is something that we have to allow. Regulation is also about allowing. One of the solutions that has been labeled by the Solar Impulse Foundation is a module that you install on a thermal engine in a car, and you reduce by 20% the fuel consumption and 80% the particles, toxical particles that are emitted. But if you do that on your car, you have to recertify your car, make a new certification. So of course, nobody is going to do it if the regulation is not allowing people to modify their engine to be more environmental friendly. So our label is the only label today that proves the profitability of environmental products and processes and technologies. And we want everyone to be able to benefit from it. It's a non-for-profit project. And I'm going to show you one of these projects, one of these solutions, which is brought by Schlumberger. Schlumberger is a company specialized in drilling for oil. And they made a diversification to drill for geothermia. So I would like to include in the screen Cindy de Michel, who is the CEO of Celsius. What you do, Cindy, is absolutely fantastic because it's the example that an oil exploration company can bring its contribution to the energy transition. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the observation is that, 25% of the global emissions are actually coming from heating and cooling buildings and basically burning fossil fuels. And the good news that we have, Celsius Energy, is that 90% of those emissions can be reduced if just you're accessing just below your building, you have a source of energy that is there. And what we're doing with Celsius Energy is connecting the buildings to the energy of the earth, diverting the expertise and the know-how of Schlumberger, so that you'll be able to access this resource and heat and cool the buildings while reducing by 90% the CO2 emissions. So this is what we're doing, right?
It's a fantastic project. And probably what everybody would like to know, Cindy, is it going to remain a little niche, or is it going to be a big part of the activity of Schlumberger? And in how many years can it really be significant for the profit of Schlumberger?
Absolutely. So this is a very good question. And actually, having a good technology is not enough. You need to have support. And we have Celsius Energy, have the support of Schlumberger. So this is a huge support financially. And the idea is really to scale up and to have a massive impact. This is really our mission. And Schlumberger, and actually Schlumberger New Energy, is very serious about it. It has a few ventures, of which Celsius Energy. And the idea is really that in the future, in the 5-10 years, Schlumberger New Energy and Celsius Energy will be a big part of a significant part of the revenue of Schlumberger. So diverting our expertise, diverting our know-how is definitely something that we want to do to make accessible to everyone energy that we need and alternate energy as well.
Last question before we have to stop. There are governments listening to us, there are regulators, there are specialists, politicians. What do you expect from them to have a harmonious development of a project like yours?
So, as I said, a good technology is not enough. Financial support is one, but that regulation support is another one. And when I heard Ursula von der Leyen talking about the Fit for 55 legislation that the European Union is putting together this summer, this is where we need homogeneity and to push people, building owners, to onboard on this wave of building renovation that was mentioned yesterday by Ursula von der Leyen, and so to push them to get rid of the fossil fuels and to allow to get maybe incentive, but also to get those carbon border mechanism and so on that will help those solutions to emerge, and this ambition by the European Union to reach the 55 reductions of global emissions by 2030. So indeed, there is like an homogeneity probably on the regulation that we will need to make this resource accessible for any country, for any building, existing new buildings in our cities, and to make really a difference and to have a global impact. Imagine a world where those 25% of emissions become 2.5% of emission, because you can access this resource, because you can access to this factor 10 in reducing the emissions. This is really our mission, and that is to be supported by financial support and regulation support as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we see that there was hope a few years ago. There is reality today. But to make this reality global, we need the regulations that will help it, that will support it. And the people who are listening to us today, they are the pioneers that need to take these decisions, need to take the responsibility of allowing these new technologies to come much more on the market. So thank you, Cindy. Thank you to everyone. Have a great day, and all the best.
Thank you so very much to Bertrand Piccard and Cindy de Michel. What a wonderful way to start out this second day of the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue.